Welcome back again. We use core animation basics to do things such as running an animation, pausing an animation, or replaying an animation, or rewinding an animation. So in this example, I'm going to show you how to make a very simple animation that you can actually pause it at some point and then continue running that. Let's see how we'll get that done. Let's go to Xcode, and I'm going to make a new app called Core Animation Basics Intro. And the reason it's called basics is because it's actually a term in there called CA Basic Animation or Core Animation Basic Animation. So to do that, I'm going to go ahead into my storyboard and quickly make some basic outlets. The outlets I want are these. First of all, I want to have some buttons so I can actually control my animation. I want to have a button that says pause. Let's call this one pause. Before that, actually, I need another button which is a start. Before we can pause it, it has to be started. So I'm going to say start. And then once it is paused, I can say give me a play. You could, of course, mix and manage all of these buttons within only one so that the icons, they change, or anything that, you can think of it more creatively. For me, for the purpose of saving time, I'm just going to make very simple buttons, very simple text on them. Then I'm going to go ahead and have a label. And this label essentially is going to have a sign on it like this one, simply because I want to know where I'm going to travel to where. So where is my animation happening? Let's say it's going from this location to that location. And that's just to show us the CG point. You can think of that as essentially a crosshair that shows us where we are trying to be. And then I'm going to go ahead and say, give me a UI view. This is the animatable piece. So this one is the one I'm going to make it red. I'm going to say it is smaller, maybe 64 by 64. And that's about it. It's going to be animated from this point to that point. Let's quickly go to Assistant Editor and add all of these. I don't really think I need my view did load, so I'm going to get rid of it right away. And in here, I don't need that perhaps. In here, I'm going to say this is a start action, making sure it is of the type action. And similarly, I'm going to call this one pause action. Again, it is action. And then play or resume action. Play action. Red box is going to be red box. And these two little locators, I'm going to call them start and end locator. So this one is start locator, and this is the end locator. So that's all we have to do in the interface builder. We now have an application that has a animatable piece, an animatable object called redbox. It has two locations, a start and end, for where the redbox should be animated. It has a function that begins the animation, and then we have a function that is going to hopefully help us pause the animation. And if the animation was paused, we will be able to resume it and start the playback once again. So let's go ahead and get started with everything that we have to do. I'm going to go to the start action, and I'm going to say I want to have the very first core basic animation. So I'm going to call this one let perhaps position animation, position anim, and that's going to be a core animation, basic animation. And then I'm going to give it a keypad, and I'm going to call the keypad position. Now that I have the position animation, I could actually decide about it from and to values. So I could say position anim dot from value is going to be my start location dot center, and then position anim dot to value. And these values are any, so essentially you can feed any value to them as long as they fit the value you want. And this is somehow a little bit unsafe, so you have to be careful about, for instance, to this to value, you don't feed it something like 10.0, a float value, because even though it accepts it, it's going to crash your application. So I'm going to say end location dot center. So that is my animation that I want to run. And then I'm going to go ahead and say redbox dot layer dot add animation, and the animation I want to add is this guy, position animation for a key, and this one I'm going to call it pose anim key, for instance. So when we run the animation, when we hit the start action, this animation should run, irrelevant of what's going to happen in the pause or play. Let's see if this works up until here. And now if I go in here and press the start button, it starts animating between these two locations, which is kind of what I expected to see. I am going to, however, go and change something, and that is I'm going to say position animation dot duration. Let's make it 5 so we can actually see it more vividly. We want to be able to see exactly, because right now it's happening within only 1 second and it wasn't really visible for me. So start, it's going to take it 5 seconds to go from one place to another, and that really helps me be able to see the animation properly. So far we managed to have an animation that runs, and it has a key for essentially running it. So now we need to go ahead and pause the animation. If I go here to pause action, I could simply say this, redbox.layer.speed, make it 0. And that simply means stop the animation. Whatever is happening at the core animation level, at the CA level, pause it. And that is kind of going to work for us, but not exactly how we were hoping it's going to be. And I will show you why this is going to be. So if I press the start and then pause, it's going to stop there, but it's not going to stop where it is then. It's just going to pause it somewhere mid-air essentially. If we now press the start button and let the animation run and then press the pause at some place, it's going to hit the speed to be 0, and it's going to push our red box back to where it used to be, simply because it doesn't know where in the animation we paused. And that's something that we have to define in the pause action. We have to tell him how far offset of the animation we are at. So here I'm going to go ahead and say redbox.layer.time offset. I'm going to make that to be equivalent to redbox.layer.convert time, and for the convert time value, the interval, we have to get the current time of the core animation media. So I'm going to say CA, and that's going to be CA current media time, which is the current absolute time, and this is the point in time that we want to pause the animation in. So let's review it really quickly. We are saying when you pause, this time offset, get it from yourself and stay there and don't run the animation anymore. So now with that one, we could go ahead to our simulator and we should be able to pause the red box where it is in the middle of the animation. So it's going there, pause, and it stops there. Obviously, if I play now, nothing is going to happen. And here's a trick question for you, and I want you to think about it for a second. What happens if I press the start button now? If I press the start button, it's going to jump over the start location, but it's not going to animate itself simply because the speed is still 0. So let's go ahead and see how we're going to manage the play animation or play action. In the play action, the first thing we have to find out is how far off through the animation we are. What is this value? So I'm going to say let's call it paused time. That is going to be redbox.layer.time offset. So it's going to be of the type CF time interval. So now I'm going to say redbox.layer.speed. First thing, let's make it 1. Then let's go ahead and say there is no time offset from this point on. Don't pause it anywhere. So I'm going to say redbox.layer.time offset. Let's make it 0 now. Simply because we don't want to offset the time of the layer to any specific point anymore. what we want to do is we want to say redbox dot layer dot again begin time. But we have to set the begin time to a certain time, and this is a bit of a calculation that we have to do. Where did I go? I'm gonna write it for you what I need to do, and then I'm gonna do the calculation. We need to find out current absolute time, and then from that current absolute time we have to subtract the pause time, and that is the time that we want to begin from. Because for instance, if your animation was paused for certain number of seconds, let's say 100 seconds, we have to start from after 100 seconds, because that is how it is going to play the animation from the point in time where we were paused. So we have to get the current time and then subtract the pause time from it. And that time I'm going to actually call it let time since pause. And time since pause is going to be the same calculation again. We have to get the time again now. This is the time that we get. And then from it, we're going to subtract pause time. So this time is now the time since pause that represents where in time we have to start the animation. To put this into a more numeric value, let's imagine that we paused at, let's say, 1000 seconds, an absolute time value of 1000 seconds, which is not really the number, but let's say we paused then. So the value that we collected here was 1000, and that is where we paused. Then right now is 50 seconds later. We waited for 50 seconds and we are rerunning. So now is 1050 seconds. So what we should do for our box, we have to say, you have to begin the difference between these two. For you, the difference between two is the 1050 minus 1000. So like that, you have to begin your animation from the time of 50 seconds, which means you have to go back as much as 50 seconds and find out where you were in that point, and here is where you start your animation again. So the begin time becomes time since pause. I'm going to run the app, and if it all works, we should be able to see the animation running and pausing properly. I'm going to say start, pause, play, and it continues from there, which is what we were hoping to see. Again, start, pause, play, pause, play, pause. It was too late. Okay, now the problem that I just created myself is I pressed the pause button when we were not playing, so the speed is now set to 0. So I'm going to have to say play, and it continues playing back. These are things that you have to account for if you're making a real application. For instance, at the end of the play action or at the end of the animation action, you have to reset the value of the red box to be where you want it to be, and so many other things. One other thing that I want to show you, however, is this. You could actually have a singular animation such as this one, or you could combine animations. And here's what I'm going to do with combining a few animations. I'm going to say let's copy this entire thing, and then the new one I'm going to call it background color animation. And for the keypad I'm going to write background color. Keep in mind that these values are not arbitrary. You cannot just place any key that you want. These kind of key are the ones that you can write whatever you like, but the keypads have to be existing values. You could in fact actually infer the values from actual CA layer attributes. So you could, instead of saying background color, say I want to have a keypad made from CA layer dot background color. So like this, we make sure that the keypad we're getting is exactly belongs to the CA layer, and we haven't made any spelling mistakes or anything of the sorts. So now we have to actually use the background color animation. I'm going to say BG color animation from value goes from UI color dot red dot CG color and to value UI color dot black dot CG color. So we have another animation that goes from a red to black for the background color. And this one, the background color animation, I'm going to say the duration of it is 5 again. And now I have to find a way to basically combine these two animations with each other. I have to mix them together, and that we do it using something called an animation group. So I'm going to say let anim group to become CA animation group. So that's the group that I want to have. And then I'm going to have to add to it whatever animation that I want. So I'm going to say anim group dot animations, which is asking for an array of core animations, becomes an array of pause animation and the other one, which is called BG color animation. And if you wanted to, you could actually drop both of these durations and have only one duration for the group on its own. So you could say animation group dot duration is 5, which essentially overrides the animation for both of these. If they each had their own duration, then they would override the group and they would work independently. So we have that, and of course at the end I have to say redbox.layer.add, and instead of adding the position animation, I have to say animation group. And for the key, since I'm not using the key, you could just keep anything that you want. If you don't want it to be confusing, such as position animation, just call it animation key. And everything else is going to work the same as it was before. Again, my animation is going to find that where we are in time, pause it there, and again is going to try to replay it from that particular time. Let me clean this code and let's go back there. Start, it goes from red to black within 5 seconds as it is traveling. Start and pause somewhere in between, continue, and goes all the way there with the same attributes as before. So that's about it, a very basic core animation, basic animation, and let's move on to our next lesson.